Selamünaleyküm everyone. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we are going to read from Surah 72 verse 22 inshallah. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Euzubillahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Say, no one can protect me from God, nor can I find any other refuge besides Him. I deliver God's proclamations and messages. Those who disobey God and His Messenger incur the fire of hell, wherein they abide forever. Once they see what is awaiting them, they will find out who is really weaker in power and fewer in number. So we know that only God can save us, and He controls everything. So this means that if God decides to help someone, no one can stop Him. And if God decides to punish someone, no one can protect that person. So there is no other option. And when God decides to save believers, He sends messengers, you know. So messengers, as we see in verse 23, deliver God's messages. A messenger cannot deliver his own words when it comes to the religion. But they only tell people what God has commanded them to say. So this shows that the message comes from God, not from a human being. And therefore, obeying God and obeying messenger are something that's in God's system. So God sends messengers to guide people, and messenger's job is actually to deliver the message, the truth. And those who do not listen to God and His messenger, of course, will suffer in hell forever. This is, actually scary. People have to think about their actions and choices continuously so that here they can use their third chance to redeem themselves. And it reminds us that life is not just about what we see now. There will be consequences for the way we live. We are, even responsible for our thoughts. And this means that we are forbidden to think about evil things. And verse 24 says that when people finally see what will happen to them, they will understand the truth. So they will realize that those who ignored God were actually weak, even if they looked strong in this world. So they will see that real power belongs to God. So this is actually a message to people who think they are powerful because of money, status, or something else in this world. But none of these things matter in front of God's power. People uh, generally look us and say that while you guys are very small group and you are weaker and fewer in number. But when we look at verse 24, God says that they will find out who is really fewer in number. So that means the dwellers of hellfire actually consist of a very small group of God's creations. Vast majority of creatures decided to be with God, and very tiny of them chose to rebel. And even the majority of this small rebellious group eventually decided to use God's second chance and repent. So they are basically animals, stars, trees, and other creatures. Humans and jinns who are destined to go to hell are actually majority group among themselves, but when it comes to whole creations, they are really minor group compared to other souls. So let's continue, inshallah. Verse 25. Say, I do not know if what is promised to you. Say, I do not know if what is promised to you will happen soon, or if my Lord will delay it for a while. The messenger of the covenant actually explained this verse. He said that the whole surah has nothing to do with Prophet Muhammad. So when God said, say in verse 25, he doesn't refer to Muhammad, but he refers to Rashad. And the verse says, I do not know if what is promised to you will happen soon. So this cannot be the end of the world, because uh, we know the time of the end of the world. So the messenger says that it is the retribution or punishment for disbelievers in this world, you know. And this retribution or punishment can be related to the retribution of smoke, because the messenger said the similar things about the time of the smoke. In submitted perspective, he said, "I don't know when." So in this world, in this verse, God commanded him to say this, and the messenger actually said that he doesn't know the time of retribution, which can be the smoke. Verse 26. He is the knower of the future. He doesn't reveal the future to anyone. Only to a messenger that he chooses does he reveal from the past and the future specific news. This is to ascertain that they have delivered their Lord's messages. He is fully aware of what they have. He has counted the numbers of all things. So no one else can know the future unless God chooses to reveal it to them. So this means that human beings by themselves do not have the ability to predict or control what will happen. Only God has full knowledge. So uh, God shared knowledge of the future with Rashad, as you know, and the messenger delivered the information to the people, like we can say the time of the end of the world is one of them. So this specific news about future is actually important because first of all, it's a test. Those who reject this information, I mean the time of the end of the world, actually will no longer be called a believer because they reject what God revealed. So even though we may not live until 2280, we know that the world will end in 2280. So this information is important actually to identify believers and hypocrites in a way. So it is important to follow God's revelations. If someone rejects this information, so that means he doesn't follow God's system because it comes from God. Surah 73, cloaked Al-Muzammil, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. O you cloaked one, meditate during the night, except rarely, half of it, or a little less, or a little more, and read the Quran from cover to cover. The Quranic night begins at sunset. So when it says meditate during the night, except rarely, half of it or a little less, we are actually commemorating God when we pray the sunset, when we pray the night, when we mention the name of God before we sleep, when we get up for dawn prayer. We already covered we already covered half the night like that. So because the night begins at sunset, uh, the day begins at sunrise. So between sunset and sunrise, when we commemorate God, we are actually following what this verse is saying. Verse 5, we will give you a heavy message. This means that God is giving an important and serious message to us, actually. So the word heavy shows that the message is not easy, it has great responsibility. When someone disbelieves after witnessing a miracle, he will be treated differently compared to another person who didn't see miracles. They are not the same. So, in this sense, we have great responsibility because we witnessed the miracle. And also, it is a heavy message in a way that it's not an easy task. It requires some patience. Believers may face challenges when spreading God's word, and people usually reject the message and make fun of believers or even try to harm believers. So, carrying God's message means standing strong even when others don't believe or listen. So that's why the message is heavy because it carries a big responsibility. But even though the message is heavy, it is also a great blessing. It is a chance for people to learn the truth uh, and change their ways and become better. You know. Verse 6, the meditation at night is more effective and more righteous. You have a lot of time during the day for other matters. So, God actually explained why meditation at night is more effective. When we look at verse 7, God says that you have a lot of time during the day for other matters. So, this means we don't usually have distractions at night. We are just with ourselves and we have more time to focus on God at night, usually. And 3 out of 5 contact prayers actually fall in the night period, which means majority of them are actually at night. So the dawn prayer, sunset prayer, and night prayer are all actually night prayers. So this is why meditation at night is important for us. And we are supposed to worship God alone every day and every time, actually, not just at nights, but as God says, the night is more effective, and God says it is more righteous. It's more righteous because it requires effort and dedication. It's not easy for many people to wake up at dawn, for example. Verse 8, you shall commemorate the name of your Lord to come ever closer and closer to him, Lord of the East and the West. There is no other God besides him. You should choose him as your advocate and remain steadfast in the face of their utterances and disregard them in a nice manner. So, so when people say insulting or disrespectful things, we should stay strong and let their words, not let their words bring us down. Yeah, instead of reacting with anger or being sad, we should ignore them in a nice way. God says remain steadfast. So we should stay firm, patient, and strong even when others are rude. So many times, people will say negative things to us because most people don't like the idea of God alone. So they might criticize or insult us. So if we react with anger, we only make the situation worse. We should actually avoid unnecessary arguments or fights. If we stay calm and patient, God will help us eventually spread the message in a nice way. I mean, actually, submission protects our inner peace, When we respond with anger, we feel stressed, but when we stay patient and kind, we keep our peace of mind. And also, it shows a good character of a believer. Uh, and ignoring them in a nice way, as this verse says, means actually you are controlling your body. You don't get easily mad or stressed. And sometimes when people see that we don't respond to their negativity with more negativity, they feel like they have to change their behavior. So this actually may bring them to the message. Verse 11. And let me deal with the rejectors who have been generously blessed. Just give them a little time. We have severe punishments and hell, food that can hardly be swallowed, and painful retribution. The day will come when the earth and the mountains will quake, and the mountains will turn into a weightless pile. We have sent to you a messenger, just as we sent to Pharaoh a messenger. Pharaoh disobeyed the messenger, and consequently we punished him severely. If you disbelieve, how can you evade a day so terrible that it makes the infants gray-haired? The heaven will shatter therefore. His promise is true. This is a reminder, whoever wills, let him choose the path to his lot. People who reject God's message may have wealth, power, and success in this world, but this doesn't mean that they are safe. God is giving them time, but eventually they will face the consequences of their actions. And their blessings are actually temporary. And if they don't change, they will be punished. So this means that just because someone seems successful in life doesn't mean they are on the right path. So some people can be tested with difficulties, and others may be tested with wealth, power, like Job and Solomon examples. But the important thing here is how they respond to God, when they are in those situations. Do they feel like they have things because of their own cleverness, or do they know that everything is according to God's wills? So that's the point. And we also read verses about the day of judgment. Everything in the world will be destroyed eventually, like mountains which seem so strong and unshakable will crumble like dust. When people uh, live their lives, they forget about the reality of the afterlife. But we know that one day everything we know will come to an end. So the earth itself will shake, and no one will be able to escape God's judgment eventually. So that's really great news from outer space. God sent this message from very far away, but people still try to find like whether there is coded message coming from outer space. Scientists scientists try to communicate with outer space, and they are constantly sending the location of Earth to the place, to the space, you know, to get some message from someone somewhere. And their aim actually is to get a message so that this will prove that there are other creatures apart from humans. But God already sent the message from space to us, and God says that actually you are not alone in this universe. You know, scientists ask whether we are alone in this universe or not, but we are actually not alone in this universe, and we were never alone. You know, first of all, uh, there is one God who controls everything. And besides that, there are other creatures like angels and jinns. But when we look at scientists, you know, some scientists, they choose to disregard this message. I mean, subhanallah, we know from the Quran that we are not alone in this universe, and we are not, uh, and even we are not alone when we think we are with ourselves. You know, we have angels around us, we have a companion jinn, and most importantly, God is always with us. So we should appreciate and thank God for this information. 20. Your Lord knows that you meditate during two-thirds of the night, or half of it, or one-third of it, and so do some of those who believe with you. God has designed the night and the day, and He knows that you cannot always do this. He has pardoned you. Instead, you shall read what you can of the Quran. He knows that some of you may be ill, others may be traveling in pursuit of God's provisions, and others may be striving in the cause of God. You shall read what can you of it, and observe the contact prayers, salat, give the obligatory charity zakat, and lend God a loan of righteousness. Whatever good you send ahead on behalf of your souls, you will find it at God far better and generously rewarded. And implore God for forgiveness. God is forgiver, most merciful. You know, God doesn't burden people beyond their ability. So instead of requiring long hours of worship, God asks believer to read what they can of the Quran. And even a little bit of sincere worship is valuable in the eyes of God. And the key is consistency, you know. It's of course better if we dedicate the whole night for worship. But God knows that we will not be able to do it every night. So God asks us to do what we can. And even if you only pray or read a little, it is still meaningful. You know, God understands our situation always. Surah 74, The Hidden Secret, Al Muttafir. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. O you hidden secret, come out and warn. Extol your Lord, purify your garment. And there are two footnotes here. God's infinite wisdom willed to reveal the Quran through Muhammad, while the Quran's awesome 19-based mathematical miracle was revealed through God's messenger of the covenant, 1406 lunar years after revelation of the Quran. 1406 equals to 19 times 74, and 1974 AD was the solar year of discovery. In retrospect, the whole surah refers to the Quran's 19 base miracles, appendices 1 and 2. And the other footnote says, Quran is the garment containing the secret code. This refers to removing Surah 9, verse 128 and 129. So this whole surah is actually talking about Quran's mathematical miracle. So the hidden secret can be the mathematical miracle. And purifying your garment means removing the false verses which are added to Surah 9. It's not surprised that God uses tests to eliminate some people. God would have revealed this miracle without any removing parts. But by doing this, he chooses people and he exposes hypocrites. I mean, in the very beginning, people believed that there is 19 base miracle in the Quran. And then when Rashad explained false verses and removed them, they just ran away and disbelieved. So this process is actually kind of an elimination, and it's there for a reason. Otherwise, all traditional Muslims would adopt the miracle and continue to follow their own way. Verse 5. Forsake what is wrong. Be content with your lot. Steadfastly commemorate your Lord. Then, when the horn is blown, that will be a difficult day. For the disbelievers, not easy. Let me deal with one I created as an individual. I provided him with lots of money and children to behold. I made everything easy for him, yet he is greedy for more. He stubbornly refused to accept these proofs. I will increasingly punish him, for he reflected, then decided. Miserable is what he decided. Miserable indeed is what he decided. He looked, he frowned and whined. Then he turned away arrogantly. He said, "This is but clever magic. This is human made. I will commit him to retribution." What retribution? Thorough and comprehensive, obvious to all the people. So we read what will happen to people who reject the message and the miracle. As God says, they are arrogant and they will get what they did. So, and here God speaks about a people He created, gave wealth, and blessed with children. So this person had everything made easy for him, and he was given success and comfort in life actually. But instead of being grateful, he wanted more, and he was never satisfied. And so he rejected the truth, the message, and the miracle. So we learn from these verses that this is because of their greed actually and their arrogance. And because this person was given many blessings but still rejected God, he will get severe punishment. So he reflected and made a decision, but it was the wrong decision. He chose to be with Satan. And also, it is interesting that the repetition of miserable is what he decided actually shows that how terrible the consequences will be, because these people say that this is human made. So this may refer to the miracle itself or the Quran or both. But either way, they choose to disbelieve. So they choose to be with Satan by their free will. So eventually, they will get what they did in this world. So thank you all for listening. Let's stop here. If you have any comments or questions, please share.
MashaAllah, thank you, brother.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother.
MashaAllah, thank you, brother.
MashaAllah. Thank you.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, brother. Abdullah, I really liked how you explained, how you were saying how people are sending singles, to outer space and trying to get like um, somebody to answer back, and how we have the Quran, subhanAllah, it's exactly what they're looking for, you know, and I never looked at it that way. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, I like verse 70 from 73. The meditation at night's more effective. Because especially at night too, you're a little more. You're not consumed with these worldly affairs and these worldly things. So you're more focused in a sense, and like it was mentioned, also like with the dawn prayer and stuff, and how it's more difficult for humans to wake, wake their body up, especially after sleep. But this is, it's my strong soul is going to be able to do this. But yeah, it's a blessing to be able to do it as well.
So I have a question from verse 72 verses we talked about regarding verses 27 and 28. I think we discussed it last time, but I think we were just talking about the smoke as well and the messenger. So I think, as I mentioned previous week, people were saying that based on these verses, we are not. Uh, quote unquote, like allowed to know the date of the smoke. So I just wanted to hear other people's opinions and thoughts and perspectives about these verses and regarding the date of the smoke, and if they think that God can allow other believers to know the date of the smoke or not.
Um, my thought on it is, brother, that you know, God already gave this, the miracle of 19 to the messenger of the covenant, right? And we know like how he used it, and like in the Quran, and we know how he used this to find miracles, and we know that other people, when in his time were finding miracles as well with this formula, so I know it's a specific news, but like, you know, how we found this news was using that what the messenger of the covenant was used. It's like it's not nothing new. We're just it's the same formula that the messenger of the covenant used, regarding um um the steps how we got this information, and we know that um God is the one that's doing everything, like um we know from verses in the Quran that you know like literally God is doing everything. God says that it wasn't you who threw, it was God who threw. We're and how we found this information was the, um using that formula that the messenger of the covenant used. It's not nothing new. It's not like, like we brought something else, and saying no, it's the same formula, you know subhanallah.
Yeah, I also want to hear from Brother Abdullah and others who haven't shared their view on this, if possible. Can you guys please chime in and share your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, without the messenger, we wouldn't even know about Apophis or the smoke or anything, you know. So, like, in lieu of everything that he's brought, you know, it's just complementing information, just like the same people who were around him at the time, you know, were able to find things and add to you know, the miracle and the findings and stuff.
Yeah, mashallah, Brother John and Brother Rafal, I agree with you. I want to hear specifically from Brother Abdullah and a few other people who have not spoken about this issue at all to find out what they think or, you know, if they have any questions about it or, you know, if they feel that, you know, it's something that's not possible, you know, because I know some people have expressed their views and kind of what I picked up from how, like, we talked about the smoke today, it almost sounded like, you know, what was being said was in agreement with that point of view. So I just wanted to hear his thoughts regarding this subject. Brother Abdullah, if you're listening, do you mind sharing? Since you talked about the smoke and the messenger not knowing about it, I specifically wanted to understand yeah, your view on the subject.
Yeah, so it was actually in the first audio, I guess. The messenger was talking about the verse 25. Uh, Actually, the whole surah, I mean. He was saying that the whole surah is has nothing to do with Muhammad. So uh, it has so it means that the whole surah is about the messenger itself. I mean, the messenger of the covenant. So when we think about this, the verse 25 say that when it says say, it means Rashad, you know. I mean, God says Rashad to say this. So Rashad says, I don't know if what is promised to you will happen soon. And he actually said that, you know, in submitter perspective, when he says, I feel like it may happen uh, uh, in the end of 1990. He first said that, I don't know when. So this verse actually uh, uh, is about the messenger. So I was trying to say this.
No, I completely got that part. I just wanted to know your thoughts about what I just said regarding the, you know, the date of the Apophis being the asteroid, right? As I said, you know, people were saying that we are not allowed. I mean, these are the words this somebody used and said we were not allowed. Isn't that true that we're not allowed to know when the smoke is going to happen based on 72, 26, and 27, right? And so um, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Is that do you feel that we're not allowed uh, to know if the smoke is going to happen on a certain time that we're alive? That maybe God it maybe it's a way of God's wanting to let these people know that they need to be safe or whatever, or for any other reason. Do you think it's impossible or not allowed for the other people to know the smoke just because the messenger of the covenant wasn't made aware of when it was going to happen, that no one else is ever going to know when it's going to happen, and it's just going to happen suddenly for everybody, including the believers. That is basically my question. But I understand everything you said about the messenger and relating to the surah about the messenger of the covenant.
Hmm. Yeah. So when we think about like Moses' mother, she knew that Moses uh, will be prophet, I guess. So that means she knew the future. So this information was coming from God. So she wasn't a messenger. So when we think about this information, this means that uh, people, of course, in accordance with with God's will, people can know the future. Uh, but when we uh, look at the situation, like these verses, and I mean, I can't say that it's impossible to know the time of smoke. You know, God can reveal this, and it may be in 2029. So it's not like impossible. I can say this. It's impossible to know that the time of smoke. You know,
Mhm. So you're saying it's possible,
yeah, actually, it's possible. I mean,
right?
why not?
Right. I mean, I feel I feel that you know it is possible, right? Like as you said, we have example of Moses' mother being inspired, of a future event. Obviously, she didn't know the future as in anything in the future. She was only made aware of specific information about the future, not all the future, right? But and so was, like, for example, Mary was given the good news, and the same way, the reason why I mentioned Moses' mother and Mary, because they were not messengers, and then we have examples of messengers, obviously, that are made aware, right? But then you have messengers that um, are sent by God to give this information to the people, right? Like, for example, Mary was not a messenger, but God sent a messenger to give her the information, right? She wasn't the messenger to get the information, but a messenger came from God to give her the information. So either way, somehow God let her know of the situation using a messenger, right? So it could so in our example here, um, God already sent a messenger with the information about the smoke, and the information was given through the messenger. So just the timing of it, obviously, it wasn't for the messenger of the covenant to know, because he wasn't even gonna be alive at the time, as God knows, for this thing to happen, right? So it makes sense for them to not know when exactly it was going to happen, because it had no direct impact on their lives, right? But I guess, given the fact that if we consider the possibility of, let's say, the plan, God's plan is, if God's plan is to annihilate the Arabs in 2029, and the whole earth is going to be enveloped by the smoke, that it makes sense for us, if we're going to be alive at that time, to know that it's going to happen, so we can be in a safe place, for example, and be prepared, and we give examples of people around the time of Noah, for example, that based on the information God gave to Noah, that these people had to be saved and to be prepared. And same way with the people had to be moved to a safe location at the time of Lot, because the people were going to be annihilated, right? So there's some sort of physical action that went into these people being saved by moving them to somewhere safe. So in that sense, it's very possible that, being that this is a global event, that and it's so drastic in nature, like God wants the believers to at least understand that something like that is going to happen, so they're prepared for themselves, provisions or whatever else they need to prepare logistically, or for whatever reason, right? But I don't see any verses in the Quran that are saying like to for what the circumcision is specifically have uh, you know uh, raised their objection against the Apophis being the smoke, saying that we are not allowed to know. Actually, and it's not even the person who asked the question was not even a circumcisionist, though, but the circumcisionists were the ones who objected in the first place, and then these questions followed, right? So I just think that really there's no basis in the Quran for someone to think that, and especially I think that one like it's okay for someone to say, hey, I think the smoke's going to happen, the apocalypse is going to hit, and the smoke's going to happen in 2029, and you can say, yeah, you're right, or you can say, no, it's just your thoughts or whatever, right? But I think as people who understand and believe God's mathematical miracle and God's signature, right? If you see enough proofs from God that you see the miracle, the evidence from the mathematical code, and you see the evidence being substantial, that after that, if you decide that you're not going to believe it, I don't think it's the same as someone who doesn't see the proof and say, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, most likely you're wrong, let's say, but it doesn't matter, because he's just because someone could just have a thought. But I think it feels different when you see all the mathematical signs, and you see more signs than more signs than you can even wrap your head around. And then someone says, someone who believes in the mathematical code says, yeah, yeah, so what, you got the numbers. It doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. I think that becomes, to me, at that point, that feels like it's more serious at that point. Like it it goes to a point of like disbelief, in God, in His miracle, when you will take that position, after seeing the evidence from the proof of the miracle itself. Just my recent experience regarding that, because um, it's one thing being a circumcisionist and not understanding the religion and upholding other sources besides Quran. That's already puts these people in a category of disbelievers, right? But then again, I think everything else that follows is, they're not able to get any guidance or any information from God at that point. That anything after that is just they're not even in that line of communication with God. That any guidance that's coming, these people are blocked anyways. So I feel that no matter what proof comes to them at that point, like, these people are not even going to believe. And obviously, then there's also this strong um, factor of ego, that because these people are so averse to the message and the truth, and they understand that we are against it, that now it's ego, because they see these people that are rejecting it, they see it as something that is coming from us. When I say us, I mean people who don't believe in their falsehood. People who stand up against this falsehood, and people who reject anything other than the Quran. So they see that, if, like, it's more like jealousy at that point. I think, like, when people say, like, for example, when people say, like, about the miracle, that they say, if there was anything good in this, like, they would not have followed it before us, right? So, or when they say, why did the miracle come down to him instead of us for the messengers, right? There's a factor of human jealousy, so it's kind of similar in the same way that they see the fact that they weren't the first ones to find out about this, it came from us, that there's also a factor of ego that is preventing these people from accepting that. And you see the aversion due to the jealousy coming up, rather than thinking like, oh wow, like, yeah, these are like really powerful mathematical proofs. Like, how is that possible? And that, given the fact that it confirms that the messenger has said the smoke's going to happen, now you're actually seeing signs of something that could possibly hit the earth with all the mathematical proofs as well as the scientific, calculations to some degree in favor. Like, it would make you want to turn more reverent and want to accept it, uh, rather than turn against it and say, like, like don't preach it to us. Yeah, and stuff like that. So anyways, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I mean, with their logic, you'd be thinking like we're not allowed to see when Hattie's comet comes around, or we're not allowed to see these other comets that we can see in the future with NASA and stuff. So, I mean, by their definition, we can't do that. So it just doesn't make sense. I think maybe but the fact that what they might be more opposed to is that it's becoming a reality almost, and
Mm-hmm.
and so that's maybe what they're afraid of, perhaps, maybe,
Mm-hmm. Right. And another thing I'm thinking about is that, like, specifically going back to the circumcisionist. So this one particular guy, when he made these comments, like, um, one of his objections was, he says, why would you believe it when the scientists are saying that it's not going to hit, that there's no chance of it ever going to hit, right? And the thing is, if you want to go by the scientists, what the scientists are saying is there's nothing coming to the earth, at least for 100 years. There's nothing that earth is in risk of in terms of an asteroid coming in 100 years. Like, they can really in advance predict the trajectory of something that's going to hit the earth. If they're saying in 100 years there's nothing that is going to impact earth, then they're really saying that they believe that the smoke is not going to happen in at least 100 years, right? And this is going against what the messenger of the covenant has preached, because he said in his submitter's perspective that it happens after the messenger comes, and it happens soon after the messenger comes. So as far as the messenger was concerned, he, based on his knowledge at the time, he thought it was going to happen in 1990, which was even sooner, right? And we're expecting it to happen in 2029, which is almost like, pretty much 40-ish years from then, right? So, uh, to say that it's not going to happen in 100 years now, you're saying in 100 and almost 150 years, the smoke is not going to happen. That's not in accordance with God's system. If God says that it happens like soon after, right? So them thinking, because they're going based off of quote unquote science, then they believe that it's not going to happen in at least 100 years. In other words. And that's also going against what the messenger is saying, because they're saying that, okay, what the messenger said was then wrong, because he says happens soon after. Now I can't say 150 years is soon after the messenger, right? I mean, it's more than a century after. Nobody in their right mind would think it's soon.
Yeah, and ironically, I mean, even if they were like in 100 years from now, they're going to change their mind, because I mean, we know how the government and these organizations are, and they're gonna say, "Oh no, it's not going to hit for another 100 years after that." They'll just keep. They're not going to ever tell the people anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like, are you going to believe someone who's a proven messenger of God and proven to be someone who's brought the truth? Or are you going to believe an organization that's full of crooks and cronies and has been proven to lie
Mm-hmm.
time and time
Yeah.
again? That's basically who they're siding with. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, and I think it's this. These are the same people that are also believe when they say, "Oh, the science says that circumcision is good for you," you know. So they go ahead and they amputate, part of, disfigure themselves because the science says that it's good for you, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like science says, oh, it's good to take drugs and instead of some
Right.
you know, like yes,
Mm-hmm.
they medication. Oh well, no, I have to listen to science.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I see we also have brother Adam with us. I want to hear what his thoughts are regarding this. You've been quiet, brother, for a while.
Oh yes, I'm back. I just wanted to talk quickly. You said something?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, you said something.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I was
was.
saying I wanted to hear your thoughts. About the Apophis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the article that I just recently put on Submission WS with some of the proofs that we found out about the Apophis. And the numbers connected to them. Matching with the mathematical miracle relating to the smoke. And so we wanted to hear people's thoughts about that. And some
Uh,
people were saying that it's not possible to know about the smoke, and so I wanted to hear your thoughts as well.
oh yes. So I think that's the fact that the Quran has smoke miracle about iron and smoke. I think these are scientific miracles, and Quran has other scientific miracles, and these are considered proof that Quran is word of God, and especially the fact that numbers are connected to each other. That adds even more mathematical miracle proofs that this is the true path. And that adds on to code 19. The code 19 is the most um, convincing of them all. I think that the numerical part adds to code 19, proving that submission is true in the final of God. And yes, Allah knows when it will really happen. I think that's the numbers are probably estimation, but Allah knows the reality. And people say it's not possible. Well, it is possible because Allah is control everything, and Allah knows what they don't know. They see a wall, a barrier to the truth that they see falsehood because barrier is blocking them from seeing the truth. I think that's yes, they're just misguided by shaitan, and they know what Allah. They don't know what Allah knows. Basically,
Mm,
that's my opinion.
so, brother, like I was just going to say, like, when we talk about God in English, like we prefer to use the word God because the message,
Oh yes,
the messenger talks about it. It's about unification, and when Allah is just nothing but the Arabic word for God, right? So when you say Arabic, when you're speaking English and you say Allah instead of God, it kind of alienates other people from the message who are not submitters, and they think like Allah is a special God, like a moon god or something, But when you say God, everybody knows you're talking about the one God, one and the same God. Um, and I think that's part of God's plan for unification, among other things. So I think it's better that we use the word God instead of Allah. And then regarding the proofs, so uh, have you looked at the article yet, or have you had a chance to look at the mathematical proofs about the Apophis being the smoke?
yes. I've even heard about it, like I think once
Uh huh.
beforehand. I heard about smoke.
Uh huh.
Yes.
Oh, mashallah. That's great. Okay. All right. Yes, that's. I guess that settles it for us. I guess. And mashallah, and I feel good to hear from other people too. Because when I heard those comments, it made me feel quite uncomfortable too, and I wanted to hear from other people. What they thought, because obviously, none of us want to be led in the wrong direction, and sometimes, I mean, of course, that's why God says, we should force ourselves to be with the believers, because believers encourage each other to stay on the right path, and they advocate righteousness, promote the truth, and encourage each other to be on the right path at the same time. If one of us is, going astray or something, like, we help each other, come back and stuff. So it's important for us to, share these views and have these discussions so we can all be on the same page, God willing. All right. MashaAllah. Anyone else has any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just
I
wanted to
guess.
say for me, I think I said it before, but it's very touching and like moving to see this stuff, because it's not that like I doubted the smoke before, but kind of like you had mentioned, Brother Suleman, we weren't sure if like, okay, are we going to witness it in our lifetime or when, but like you're left, like I'm left with the feeling like it's very touching. It's like God messenger did bring the truth, and like we know he brought the miracle, but everything he said, it adds to our it's like the Quran says, when they see God's victory, or when they see these great signs from God, you know, like in the times of war or something, they say, like indeed God's messengers brought the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like very,
It augments our faith.
yeah, exactly. Just,
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and also,
it
I
confirms
think,
the messengers too. Everybody's gonna be able to, uh, I mean,
mm-hmm,
even people that weren't believers. I mean,
mm-hmm,
when this smoke happens, they're gonna, God willing, turn reverent.
mm-hmm. Exactly. I
In
mean, this was one of the
C19.
things. Yeah, I mean, this was a thing for me, when we talked about submission prevailing, right, in 50 years' time or less, when he said that, and I believe too that, eventually submission's gonna, you know, uh, uh, go viral very quickly, everywhere around the world, and people will embrace submission. But I couldn't explain to myself like what would actually happen, that will, have such an effect so quickly. But I guess once we found out about the Apophis, it just makes perfect sense, especially with all the numbers around it. Also pointing to 110, as a multiple, that this is quickly going to follow with God's victory, and it's going to fall within the same timeline the messenger of the covenant promised, right? So if you ask these people, for example, okay, if the smoke's not going to hit in the next 50 years, as the messenger said, how is submission going to prevail? It'd be interesting to hear their answer on that too. Yeah, but subhanallah, I mean, like, the thing is that, um, unlike unlike the point about circumcision, where we strongly feel that it's important for people to understand the truth, and, for example, for these people to know that we have to follow the Quran alone and uphold the Quran as their only source of guidance. If they believe or don't believe in the smoke, um, it doesn't really affect us in any way, and we don't even have to go out of our way to convince these people, because at the end of the day, I mean, first, if they don't believe, they're going to be affected by it for sure, right? And only going to hurt themselves anyways. But also that, it doesn't change anything for us, whether they believe or not, um, and but we can still continue to promote it to other people and raise awareness about the mathematical miracle itself, and have enough conversations about it so that when it actually happens, that people can connect it back to submission and come to understand that, okay, this was already prophesied in submission, we were already talking about it, and now it has happened.
so it will
Right.
validate,
Yeah.
the
I was
truth.
talking to somebody last night about some
Uh-huh.
new fellow I work with. I met for the first time.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I was after discussing like work related stuff, and after a little while we started talking, and I brought it up, and I could see he seemed kind of interested, but he
Uh-huh.
kind of made the comment like he says he doesn't. I mean, I get it, like with some people, because there's so much uh,
Uh-huh.
stuff happening in the world. Like he tries not to, because the more he said, I think he starts to look like the more it makes sense. And but no, he found it interesting. But yeah, I'm sure like we'll keep it. I mean, a lot of the people like I've put out, uh, talk to them about stuff, and then I kind of put out a feeler out there before, just to see where they're at. But yeah, it's good. It's good to discuss this with people.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know. I mean, even too, it's a way to introduce the miracle, because when you start talking about this too, outside,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of all can tie in for somebody, and kind of plant that seed, So maybe
Mm-hmm.
years later they'll come back around, and be like, oh, like
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, anything we can do to advocate,
Yes.
anything we can
Exactly.
do to advocate the truth and God's message, to people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if we were in their situation, like we were in totally like in the days of ignorance, or what is, or like we were just ignorant, we wouldn't want somebody to tell us, like having
Mm-hmm.
know where we are now, you know, like we'd be begging for somebody to, in retrospect.
Yeah, mashallah.
But yeah, it's also important too, It's I know we know that it's also what makes like submission in the Quran, uh, like so great, is because and in God's religion, like there's no compulsion in the religion, because he was telling me a little bit last night. Uh, I think about I think he grew up Southern Baptist, but there were some people that Christians that would like come to him and say, "Are you saved by the blood of Jesus?" And then he would, and basically they would have him like, or tell him he's going to hell if he doesn't believe what, in that. And yeah, it's they just those people set real bad examples.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
Yeah, he even called him, and it was kind of weird, but he said, "You know what? I'm going to the same." Like he looked at him, he's like, "Well, I'll probably see you in the same place you're going, which or something." But but, but but he's like more like he's not a hypocrite. Like he's like he
Uh-huh.
looked at me like these people are like very hypocritical.
Uh-huh.
These the people, the
Mm-hmm.
Bible thumpers and stuff that like if you don't believe in the blood of Jesus, like you're going to hell, you need to join
Mm-hmm.
us now or else,
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but subhanAllah, we know it's like people can, with the God's message is not meant to be forced on people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what too. Like when I've talked about the Quran to people and shown them these verses and stuff, it actually makes them want to take more interest and believe, because they see like, okay, this is different than a lot of these other religions and factions that
Mm-hmm.
are very 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 compulsive.
Mm-hmm. Mashallah. Praise be to God for, giving us the message and showing us the proofs, you know. SubhanAllah, like this Friday, I was doing a sermon on the contact prayers and the religious duties, and it gave me an opportunity to look again at all the numbers connected to the contact prayers, and I saw like all those numbers again, the very long numbers that it mentions or represents, and it just was thanking God so much that everything is mathematically confirmed, for us, that one, God gave us the truth, and then He also gave us the mathematical confirmation to have the certainty and the peace of mind to be rest assured that He has given us something, divinely preserved from Him, that we have full proof of each and everything. Like, subhanallah, I mean, it is so perfect. For example, for the contact prayer, every single position of your every rak'ah is mathematically composed, and you can, when you see the proof in front of you, I mean, that is such a blessing from God to have that assurance that we never had before. To know that such a blessing from God that we have this opportunity alone. I mean, opportunity to grow our soul.
Subhanallah, our brother. Praise be to God.
Inshallah. Yeah, and I mean, compare this to all these people, like like you mentioned, for example, all these groups, that come to you with such a strong tone, like they come and tell you to believe, or else you're going to hell. Like, they're so sure about their beliefs, without any proofs. And it's not just that group. Every group you see, anywhere, religious group, they claim to have the true message, and they think everybody else is going to hell. But subhanallah, I mean, there is one truth, and by the evidence that God has given us, shown us the mathematical proof, we know that, subhanallah, we do have. There is obviously absolute truth that someone has, that God has presented it to us. So, uh, like, it's priceless, right? More, I mean, subhanallah, like, I think if we really want to do justice, we would never should complain ever in life for anything. We're so fortunate to have this information alone. I mean, at that point, like, nothing else matters in life when you have such an amazing treasure. Like God says, even if you gave something, earth full of gold, twice as much will not be accepted from anybody, right? I mean, this is the price, the value of the guidance that God has given to us, you know
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It's like the Quran. Those who are the most fortunate, we're so fortunate to get the message, and we have to. Uh, yeah, it's like something to be so thankful for too. And there is such a thing because like I've heard that like you know like someone say like there's so many religions. There's this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and the list goes on. Which one is right? And you can tell this person like believes in a higher power or something, but it's like I was kind of telling them, and I was like, what we actually, I said, what if like I used to, I was at one point kind of like in your shoes, I guess. I didn't,
hmm
but I said there's such thing as actually the religion of truth, like as the Quran says, is a true religion,
hmm
but it's backed
hmm
by proof, you know. Like we know this by the miracle,
hmm
and and yeah, and it's instead of this or what is fanaticism of like people just like. And it's like, well, what's your proof? Like, oh, well, I believe in my heart that I believe and that I believe. Like, I know that I know that I know. I've heard this. I know that
right.
I know that I know. It's like, well, that's not enough. And then, like, the logical people that are like kind of on the borderline of
hmm hmm
agnostic, like they know they believe in something's out there, but they're not
hmm
sure. they're not gonna.
Just
That's not
opinions.
gonna do it for them. You know
Yeah.
that's not enough for them. Like emotional, like emotions and fanaticism isn't gonna cut it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Mashallah. Me and Brother John, we were talking about this. How people are gonna say that they have the truth. They're gonna say this is the truth. They're gonna tell you every single person from their religion. But Brother John said that you know, but you know what? But we have God has given the human being the truth. Like this is the proof from God. This is not a human being saying that this is the truth, or their own personal ideas. This is from God, God saying that this is the truth, this is the right path, So,
Yeah, mashallah. I mean, at this point, the
I think you went your audio cut out, Brother Suleman. If you're still talking, we can't hear you.
to
Oh,
really
okay.
advance ourselves and grow our souls. We can strive. We can aim for the best. Or we can really go down to the worst pits of hell as some people are going. So may God keep us on His path. May God keep us guided and united on the right path, because obviously that's the only way for us to come out victorious in this life, now that we have been at this point where the message has been introduced to us. So there's no middle ground for us at this point, right? We're either going to go really well, or we're going to go down, hit the bottom, which obviously none of us wants. So may God have mercy on us, and may God keep us on the right path and keep us guided.
Yeah, and that's why someone who disregards the message of the most gracious, like you were saying, like it's better than the earth full of rubies and sapphires and everything. Why their punishment would be so severe in the hereafter, and especially if they were one to try to divert people from the true message. Uh, you know, but yeah, like speaking of dreams, last like I had a dream. I was telling this person, like, who I'm talking about. Like I said, you're the most like worst person ever. Like, but I mean,
What
not
were
to
you
get deep
saying?
into, huh?
What
Like,
were you
who
saying?
I'm. I was
Yeah, yeah.
telling him like you're the most evil. I said you're the most evil person, because then like there was another
In your
someone I
dream,
knew.
you were saying that.
Yeah, saying that to who I'm talking about, and they were just looking
Uh-huh.
at me because they were trying to trick somebody else, like who was trying to, like in the dream or something, like
Uh-huh.
I don't know who was talking about submission, and then they were like, I was like, no, like you already gave it up, like,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it's I mean it's true, because it's like, even if you gave, I look at it this way, it's almost like even if you gave this person a paradise, they would still be ungrateful. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if you were to, like, even if they went to heaven or something, like, they wouldn't appreciate anything, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's like maybe like a or not allegorical, but it's like a showing this person, like, even if you're giving them, they would still want more, still be greedy or unappreciative or not be satisfied or something.
Right.
Because if they aren't satisfied with the best message, and that's what I wanted to say earlier. So, like, piggybacking on what you were saying earlier, like about having the truth, like, and nobody else preaches God alone. That's what I was kind of telling this person last night. I said, if you look at like all the religions that you're talking about, who's right, who's wrong. It said every single one of them. I mean, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Shintoism. I mean, they all have some type of it's all has some type of idolatry. None of them worship God alone, and they were like, kind of nodding their head like it makes sense. Like not only do we have the
Right.
miracle, but it's like the miracle confirms God alone, and God alone confirms the miracle because it's the most sensible, logical message. Uh, you know, like there's no human factor. Like you can't argue with God alone. Like it's the best message, the safest message, the most sensible message.
Mashallah, are there any off-topic questions anybody has?
So we read up to Surah 74 today. I think Abdullah
74?
was it 72 though?
73. We started at 72:22.
Oh, 74:30 next week. Okay.
Yeah, we started at 72:22, and we read up until 74:29, right?
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to just say I think it's we can appreciate like how everything's been divinely planned. It took me like when I first looked at it, the footnote, and then there's a video I think the messenger does on the chalkboard explaining it very well. But how the date of discovery in the lunar years, 1406 lunar years after the revelation, is equal to 19 times 74. And 1974 was the solar year of discovery. And so like the way it just happened, no human being can like not even. I mean, just at the time of Muhammad, no human can author such a book, and the way it's the miracle, God's messenger is unveiled to the world. This is like more proofs, mashallah, um, that adds to his power, the Quran's power and the miracle itself. Yeah, and I just had one more comment on the verse 10. And, like Abdullah said, it's remaining, it says, and remain steadfast in the face of their utterances and disregard them in a nice manner. So this is real good. This is wisdom, how to deal with people, not to lose our cool. And even, there's a verse, cooling the temper, and then other parts of the Quran, how, because we also, we are composed ourselves, but we set a good example for bystanders who may witness such something, or even for the person that might be uttering wrong or hurtful things. They see how what it is to submit to God alone, and not cave into you know losing our temper or something. It's a good show of submission, I guess, if I'm making sense here.
Yeah, mashallah, you are making sense here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, God says in the Quran to debate with them in the nicest possible manner, unless they transgress, right? So definitely, it's a responsibility, and you know how the subtitle says, believers set the example, right? So I mean, we have to carefully, I guess, be very introspective of our actions and how they come across. Not to the point that we start becoming idol worshippers of ourselves, where we are spending most of our time just thinking about people's perception of us, but just doing our due diligence and making sure that we're upholding laws as much as we can. Of course, human beings are weak, and sometimes we can overlook certain things, but we can always remind each other. That's what God says, um, as long as we can do it in the best way. Yeah, I mean, it's important for us, to present the highest moral character, like you said.
Yeah, so I had one off-topic question. I guess we can.
Uh huh.
So, like with our jinns and stuff, like how God holds us responsible for our thoughts and innermost thoughts and stuff, and so we have to make sure
Mhm.
that they're all pleasing to Him. But like, how Satan whispers, I guess, through our jinn.
Mhm. Mhm.
At what point does, because how like the messenger talked about
Mhm.
like constantly seeking refuge and stuff, or like he even said
Mhm.
himself, if he gets any, he said he'll think like God is with me here right now in this room. God is with me. God is with me. And he said this removed, like he said, if you have any devilish thoughts, they'll go away. So at
Mhm.
what point, like, if our jinn is whispering to us and it's not us, like, is our jinn responsible for him, or are we responsible for his whispers?
No, we're not
Uh,
responsible for his whispers. You're responsible for his whispers. We are responsible for our actions, in
right.
response. Like for example, if a
Yeah, because
jinn.
we can't help, like, if Satan would try to, like,
Mhm.
something stupid,
Mhm.
like silly or goofy, and then we're like, no,
Mhm.
gotta get away, like, and then we seek refuge, and then
Yeah.
it goes away.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. So you did the right thing in that sense, right? I
yeah.
mean, the jinn whispered something to you, but you countered it with something righteous, rather than joining him. Like what people do is when the jinn invites them and whispers to them, they join them, right?
Oh,
But the
yeah.
believers, yeah,
Are gonna debate with them and be like, no way, like,
yeah,
you're being
yeah, they
dumb.
resisted, they stop it, they try to tell the jinn what the right thing is, rather than listen to him, you know.
So at what point? So
And
that leads me to my next part of the question. So at what point is like, I mean, does our jinn, you know, like eventually, like as we grow our souls and stuff, and like, is our jin's always gonna whisper to us from life until death? But like, at what point does he kind of, I mean, completely like join us? I mean, I know like when we, so like the messenger gave the example, like when we're reading the Quran or like we're in a Quran study right now, for example, our jinn is with us listening and, you know, interested and stuff. We're talking about and listening with us, you know, so that's good. But like, at what point does like he completely give up on whispering? Or is that something that, I mean, Satan is always going to whisper, right, to us, and that's done through our jinn. So I mean, at what point does it ever like does our jinn completely side with us? Or I mean, is he sided with us, and then like even like we're okay, we're submitted to God alone, like the messenger said, like, maybe he even might wake you up or something for dawn prayer, or it could be an angel. But like, is it like that? And then sometimes our jinn might whisper like very like less and less. Because I mean, at what point does it? I mean, if ever, if I'm
right.
making
I mean, I
sense.
think, yeah, Michael, that's a very good question. Like, and I don't know if like we have like a concrete answer in that respect, but from what I understand, that you know, the our jinns are descendants of Satan, so they are more inclined to be, I mean, on the side of Satan, you know, so they might be, you know, maybe slightly behind than where we are at in terms of our submission, which is why they're given more time also. So, but
Right.
if we, so I think like our companion will always try to promote Satan's point of view until, of course, if they submit, they become righteous. It's totally up to them, right? I mean, how righteous your jinn is. Just like human beings are righteous, some are more righteous, some are less righteous, as it says in the surah, right? Some are less than righteous, and then there's compromisers, you know. So it depends on what kind of jinn any person has. If it's a really good one, you know, you're fortunate to have such a jinn. If that happens, then eventually, you know, your jinn will be with you at some point. Once he becomes a submitter too, uh, he might not whisper to you at that point. He might stop whispering to you, but I
And it
think
could be Satan, because like if we still have to see, like we still get whispered,
yeah,
uh, like it could be
yeah, but I
Satan at
mean,
that point,
yeah, but I
maybe.
mean, your jinn is most likely going to be weaker than you and behind in terms of his submission. So he was always going to, you know, try to push you back.
Right,
But
yeah, like he might be growing in his
yeah,
gen qualities as we grow submitters, but he
yeah.
might just, I guess maybe he'll whisper less and less, maybe,
hmm
but
Yeah,
like,
it's like, you know, imagine like going up a hill, like you're going by yourself, versus you're going up a hill and then you have like a 6-year-old with you that you have to keep dragging along. You know,
well,
I
don't say
mean,
that, the gen's gonna get mad. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just being goofy.
who you calling a 6-year-old?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the reason I said 6-year-old is because if you look at it in terms of the
No, that's a
gin
good, yeah,
years, right?
that's a good example, right?
Yeah. If you look at it in terms of a jinn years, like, I mean, your jinn, if he has like 300 years to live and he's only 29, it's only like in jinn years, like you said, dog
Yeah,
years, you
like
know?
gym
In jinn years,
proportions.
yeah, yeah. So
Right.
it's like he's a juvenile,
Mm-hmm.
which explains why they're given more time. Right?
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, and the messenger said, like, for those fortunate enough to make it to heaven, your jinn will be thanking you, you know. But you know, like if by thanking you by convincing, um, And I mean, maybe it was the other way around. Maybe we'll be thinking, or I forget how he said it, but
Yeah, I mean, if they're both believers, then we would also be
thinking,
somewhat
yeah, we would be
thanking him
thinking,
for
right, for not being
not
so bad.
being a devil.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Like we'd be happy, like we both be happy with each
Mm-hmm.
other,
Mm-hmm.
God willing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because imagine like if he tried using more tricks or something, like
Mm-hmm.
like.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all creditors to God for the matching us with the right jinns. You know, I mean, because God says, like, for example,
Mhm.
people who are bad, God knows which souls are bad, and He matches them with the worst jinns. You know, and then when I say what I mean worse is like these are clever ones. Like they trick these people into believing they're on the right path, trick them into believing they're the most righteous people, right? As you know, so really, it's a blessing in that sense if you think about it for God, for these people from God that He matches these jinns according to His knowledge. For the people who are righteous, He doesn't give them those worst jinns, that are
Mhm.
destined for the lowest pits of hell. They're only going to people who are hypocrites. They're also going to the lowest pits. But even though the jinns are matched in that sense from God, it's still a challenge, right? Everybody has to struggle with their jinns, as we know that constant argument, as the messenger explains, right? So that still happens, I think, because they're still behind in their submission. Like humans are still farther ahead based on the fact that God has given us a natural instinct, and we're more inclined to want to be righteous. And I guess jinns, being the kind that they are, just naturally they are going to be more wicked, as
Yeah,
compared to
it's
humans.
like what I've noticed. I mean, like I find myself debating less and less with. I mean, but when it happens, like I know it's like you think, like oh, you're talking to yourself in your head or you're debating with yourself, but it's
Hmm.
really, what like as us, the person, the soul, we know what's being advocated, and
Hmm.
so for those moments, like with me, I guess it's less and less over time, but. I mean, like you said, it still happens sometimes, but maybe it's like our gen needs extra convincing, and then like we're there to try to show them, like, because there was
Hmm.
like I think a few months ago, something, and then, um, but no, man, it's yeah, it's something that's
Hmm.
good. Uh, like God, God will help us,
Hmm.
and maybe it's to help our gen as well.
Hmm.
To I don't know.
Mashallah. Yeah, I mean, it is just, I think, at every point, like it is really scary, to just still be in that position, um, like where we are stuck now, it's just not a very good place.
What do you mean, like it's scared? Oh, like to be in our position as
I
humans?
mean, to be in this position where we are, like, where, the jinn is, trying to sway you on his side, and, you're still
Mm,
stuck in this world, trying to
okay.
find your path, and, you have all of these problems coming at you. You have the whispers from Satan coming at you,
Yeah,
and you have all the worldly tests coming at you
yeah. I
every
think
single
too.
day.
It's. I think too. Like what I'm thinking, like as well. Um, it's like Satan. I mean, Satan really is like ramping up in a sense because like I've noticed, like if he doesn't get me in one thing, like or let's say it like was a test or admission test, he'll start working
Mm-hmm.
on somewhere else, and then I'm starting to see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like like you can kind of. I've been seeking refuge a lot and stuff, but like praying about it, but to God, but like I've noticed that's kind of what uh but like mean, maybe it's just my opinion on this, but like it tries to go undetected, you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
Satan will be very quiet, you know, and then he'll try to
Mm-hmm.
get you to fail at something or test or mess
Mm-hmm.
up, without you even noticing what he's doing. If that's making
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, like as soon
that
as
is making sense.
yeah, as soon as I see as soon as like I see what's happening, that's when like it becomes easy because it's kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
No, so I'm not gonna listen to you. You know, I'm gonna do this. You know.
yeah, because God says that they when the devil whispers and he whispers to them, they immediately remember God, right? And it basically that what that means is, and he allows them to recognize the truth. They immediately remember God, and it fixes the situation because it's all about
Mashallah.
remembering God.
MashaAllah. You see, then he says that they become seers. Where
Yeah,
they,
exactly, mashallah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, mashallah.
It's almost like you may be stuck in some kind of hypnosis, right? State of hypnosis, and then you remember God all of a sudden, and you wake up, like, wow, like, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank God for God's help, you know, too. May God help us all. And
Yeah, so I mean,
or go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, if you have a comment, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like reading the Quran and doing Quran studies and all that, Friday prayers, and uh, it's good, for
Mm-hmm.
it brings us closer,
Mm-hmm.
closer to our Creator in the sense, like as the more our soul grows, like we're becoming better and we're improving, repenting, and every day is like
Mm-hmm.
a new day to uh, do better or submit to God, um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, more.
Mm-hmm. Mashallah. Yeah, I mean, it helps us and helps our genes to sit and focus.
Yeah, and remembering what's important too, because it's even like
Mm-hmm.
with our consumables or what we're consuming, like in the form of videos, audio. It's like the more we
Mm-hmm.
consume that's
Mm-hmm.
righteous, and even like okay, like we could like watch something that's has nothing to do with let's say like a channel on ravens or something or birds, but even then we could like think about God. But like for music, for example, it all adds up. I think like listening to music that reminds you or talks about
Mm-hmm.
God and His message and His uplifting versus the latter of or the versus the other alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And which may not be
Mm-hmm.
bad in of itself, but like I've,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed even then, even if nothing harmful, I think it's not doing that and listening to
Mm-hmm.
anything that brings you
Mm-hmm.
closer to God. I think it strengthens,
Mm-hmm.
like it sets your day to be better.
Mashallah.
It sets the whole week to be
Mm-hmm.
better. Because I've kind of
Mm-hmm.
done it both ways, and then I've noticed I'm actually happier, or more
Mm-hmm.
happy when I do. Um, just like consuming like submission, like God, anything,
Mm-hmm.
everything to do with God,
Mm-hmm.
uh, things of the world. I think too, like you were saying, like these worldly things, worrying about this, or I mean, these materials. They don't have any impact on you. Like they don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They're not what's
Yeah.
important. Like the message we got and stuff
Mm-hmm.
and it's something. I mean, I think this is too. Is this what is what it means to be steadfast? Because it's not always easy. Because it's like we live in a
Mm-hmm.
world where we're dealing with so many, different variety of people at work, or
Mm-hmm.
this and that. Like a lot of different people I have to interact with, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
mashallah, like it's so much better than what it was like before
Mm-hmm.
submission. But you know, Yeah,
mashallah.
like remaining steadfast.
Mhm.
And I think too, it's also a good reminder, like of how, or it make us appreciative, like how much, I guess, how free we are, like
Mhm.
after getting the message and believing, God is running everything.
Right.
Dealing, like seeing so many people. I mean, just assuming that this person is not a submitter. I mean, we'd hope they are. Kind of like the messenger gave the example of his neighbor. I think at one
Mhm.
time, like but from the looks of it, it didn't look like he was. But yeah, it's like how blessed and fortunate we are to have the message and to be happy and
Mhm.
not to let things worry us. And then if they
Mhm.
do, we'll quickly remember, like, okay, why are we here? We remember the hereafter, and
Mhm.
that's the like reality, not this 50 to 100 year uh, worldly life that doesn't mean anything in the sense of like it's just an illusion.
Mhm.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah, subhanallah. I mean,
talking about this helps. I mean, it helped me.
yeah, exactly. And also, you know how God says that, like you talked about being free, feeling free, or when you understand that God alone is your Lord and Master, as the messenger puts it, it's the highest form of freedom. And like today, I was just thinking about it. We were talking about like the kings, something related to the king, and like about his properties and stuff here. Like they have a king in Morocco, you know. And I started thinking about it, like they were guarding his property, so they were like he's afraid, to lose it or what. But like God gives us the peace of mind when we trust Him and we know that He's our only Lord and Master. Like we have no fear, and people who will actually submit to God. That God's promises that He'll make them sovereigns, like kings and queens on earth. The real kings and queens on earth, where even the king has to answer to his people, and he's worried about his property, he's worried about his money, he's worried about his kingship, and he's trying to please people so he can maintain his position and whatnot. Similar to how someone in this world is worried about his job, and he's trying his best to keep it in the same way. But if you want to be a real king or a queen on earth, like I mean, this is submission, where only when you have the right belief in place and the right perspective in place on this life, I mean, you cannot enjoy the freedom and the peace that is reserved only for those who have submitted totally to God, who understand that no one in the world has any power whatsoever to benefit you or harm you other than God. And that they understand the difference between Satan's kingdom and God's kingdom, and understand that you can be in God's kingdom anywhere in the world, and there could be chaos all around you, but God will protect you in the same way that we see in the Quran. Like He protected Abraham from the fire when they threw him in the fire, and God said to the fire, be cool and safe. And it kind of reminds me of the example that the messenger of the covenant also shared about how, for example, I mean, you could be living in a place where everybody's dying, but you still be happy because you have God's protection around you, and you will not have any worry or any sort of sadness or unhappiness as a result of all of that. I mean, it will not affect you in any way. So this is amazing. information. And when we remember God, when we're reverent, we're able to get to that state of mind. But when we're not with God, obviously, and these things are attacking us from all sides. I mean, we could easily slip in those situations. So it's good to be in these studies, and it's good to remind ourselves as much as possible, so we can obviously stay in God's protection and grow our souls as much as we can.
Subhanallah, our brother.
MashaAllah. Yeah, I like the music I was playing in the background when you were talking.
Oh, really?
It kind of made
Yeah,
it seem like a little more like impactful.
oh, mashallah. Yeah, I mean,
Like
I'm in a
it was kind of nice.
very beautiful uh, place. Let me share my video.
Oh, it's nighttime. That's
Yeah,
true.
it's
I
nighttime.
forgot.
It's nighttime. This is the ocean right here.
Oh, mashallah. I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
mashallah.
hear the
And there's
waves.
another restaurant there, but you can see it right by the ocean here. And you can see the moon and the
Wow.
stars.
Allah. Yeah.
Mashallah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, so do you guys have anyone has more comments or questions? Okay, so if not, then God willing, we can conclude our study. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brother Abdullah, for leading the study. And God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.